kindergarten teacher Nancy Bleuet practically spent more time huddled over children's books or cleaning up craft stains than she did resting at home. But she knew she was put on earth to be of service to others, and that's part of why she became a kindergarten teacher. Guiding kids through their formidable years was 60 hours per week well spent. Still, she never expected her job would thrust her into the middle of a life-or-death situation. One of Miss Nancy's pupils was a 4-year-old named Camden Peterson. A bright, energetic, and social kid, he carried a secret with him that not even the intuitive Miss Nancy could figure out. The secret bothered him. It scared him. And whether or not he knew it, he always wore it on his sleeve. He never spoke about his situation, however, at least not directly. One day at school, Nancy Bleuet noticed something was wrong with her student. Camden was acting strange, silent and reclusive. Was he sick? Was something wrong at home? Was he feeling out of place? She was intent on getting to the bottom of it, so she monitored him carefully. After days turned into weeks with no improvement on Camden's part, Nancy asked if they could talk in private. She didn't want to single him out in front of the other kids, and she was relieved when he said yes. They went into an empty corner of the room, and the truth poured out. Nancy was worried. Camden was demonstrating telltale signs of a kid with a rotten home life. Her dedication to her students didn't stop in the classroom, so she carefully coaxed the truth out of her pupil. He was hesitant to speak at first, but after some careful guidance and effort, he confessed. The source of his heartache was his father. See, while 34-year-old Daryl Peterson of Mason City, Iowa, kept the finer details of his life out of the public spotlight, one thing was perfectly clear to all who knew him and met him. He loved his son. But Daryl wasn't doing well. Pictures of the father and his 4-year-old son decorated his social media profiles. In each one, the duo wore huge smiles across their faces, whether they were at an at-school event with inflatable slides or just in their car. During their escapades, Camden didn't know his father was dying. In 2010, just a few years before Camden was born, doctors diagnosed Daryl with Berger's disease. Antibodies called LGA, the experts said, were building up in his kidneys and slowly destroying his organs. In other words, Daryl was on the fast track to renal kidney failure, a condition in which his deteriorated kidneys would no longer filter all the toxins out of his bloodstream. When that set in, he would die, leaving Camden behind. So, after Camden was born in 2012, Daryl raised him knowing a fatal diagnosis was just one doctor's visit away. And in January 2016, the sword of Damocles finally fell. His kidneys failed. He needed a transplant ASAP. While doctors placed him on a kidney donor list, he also sought out donors himself. "I had friends and family come forward who wanted to donate," he said, "but these didn't work out for medical reasons or other reasons." In the meantime, he started up dialysis. The 34-year-old spent 4 hours, 3 days per week hooked up to a machine that filtered his blood, during which he no doubt thought of little else but Camden. And for the 4-year-old, even with his dad on dialysis, life continued. As Camden told his story, Nancy's jaw fell to the floor. The story he told was devastating. His father was seriously ill, and without proper treatment, he was likely going to die. The truth was an unbearable weight for a kindergartner, yet Nancy was determined to set everything right. So, Nancy went to her files and pulled up the phone number for Camden's dad, Daryl. He, of course, had no idea that he was about to receive this call. When he first realized it was Camden's teacher, he worried that his son had gotten in trouble. The teacher told the father that Camden had spilled the beans, and Daryl was embarrassed beyond belief. Nevertheless, he filled her in on all of the details 4-year-old Camden wasn't privy to. His kidneys were functioning at below 20% capacity, and he didn't have a ton of time left. Many would argue that teaching is tireless and underpaid. It takes a giving person to be one, and that described 54-year-old Nancy to a T. She wasn't getting any younger, and her kidneys were working fine. Maybe, she suggested, Daryl could use one of her kidneys. Immediately, Daryl declined. They'd have to think of another way. But no matter what, Nancy was committed to helping. She pressed the issue further, explaining to Daryl all of the reasons why. She would make a perfect donor, and eventually, the father relented. She made a promise and had every intention to keep it, though it wasn't so simple. Donating a kidney isn't as easy as slicing someone open. Nancy had to take physical exams to make sure her organ would be compatible with Daryl's body. The results were much better than they could have ever expected. Not only was Nancy's kidney in good health, but she also had appropriate genetic correlations to donate to Daryl. It seemed like all the cards were in order, but there was one more test she would have to pass. Before Nancy could be approved, she had to undergo psychological exams to confirm that she wasn't donating her kidney because she was insane or under duress. The back and forth proved what everybody already knew. Nancy wasn't crazy, she just had a heart of gold. After a long period of tests, discussions, and "are you sure's," it was finally time for the surgery. Transplant surgeons Alan Reed, Zoe Stewart-Lewis, and Daniel Katz led the endeavor. They were qualified and experienced, but like any surgery, there was always a risk. Luckily, Daryl and Nancy could both rest easy. The surgery was a great success. "She's given me and my son a new opportunity at life," Daryl said. He couldn't believe it. Was this the most selfless act ever committed by a teacher?